My name is Lorine. I grew up in the Hunts Point area. Kelly, Tiffany, Simpson in the Bronx. That was the second half of my life. But I also grew up in the barrio on 3rd Street, Lexington and Park. That was my formative years. And then we went to the South Bronx.
And how is being for you to grow up in the Bronx?
Me, growing up in the Bronx, it was pretty difficult. First of all, it was a shell shock type moment because in the barrio we didn't have burning buildings and that kind of stuff when we moved out. And when I came to the Bronx, the buildings were burning, gangs were all over the place. And I was sucked in. I joined gangs. I just lived in the streets. I was a very angry kid. So the South Bronx kind of like was a perfect fit for me because I found a lot of people that had the same issues that I did, and I just gravitated and joined gangs, and that's what I did for many, many years.
Now, how was that? How was joining the gangs, being a woman? How difficult was that?
It was very difficult in the sense that it's a man thing. You know, the president is a man. All the because they have president, vice president, and all these things is all men, but the women were the badasses because at the time they didn't have police women, so we carried the weapons. If there was drugs involved, whether it was weed or some cocaine or some heroin like bags at that time, we would carry them because the cops couldn't touch us. We were constantly stopped by the police, but they couldn't touch the women, so we just keep walking. And there were rapes. Rapes did happen in some gangs, so some women had to endure that. I was raped by one of the gang members, and there was domestic violence that was very prevalent. Women were slapped all the time. So for a woman, it was very, very difficult. But if you began to hold your own, then your life wasn't that difficult. And I held my own. For example, I was not sexed in. I did not have sex with 5 men or 5 guys to join a gang. I was not punched in. I was not in I didn't have to go through a, what they call an Apache line and get beat up. I stood my ground. And I never wore patches. Patches are what they wear on their back. It was cut off denim with the name of the club. I never wore that because I didn't believe in the property of. Though I was young and I was a young teenager, but something inside me wouldn't allow me to accept this property of. Like I could be your girlfriend, I could be your wife, but I wasn't comfortable with property. But I didn't point a finger at any woman in the club that did. That was their choice. My choice was different.
What do you like of the Bronx?
Oh, I think the Bronx, what I like about the Bronx is all the cultures that we have. We have everybody. We have all kinds of people that live in the Bronx, whether they're from Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, Mexico. La cultura latina is just overflows. And we have Africans that are from Africa, from whether it's Ghana, Nigeria. We have all these religions: Muslim, Yoruba, Catholicism, Christian, Jehovah, and we all live in the same neighborhoods, and we get along, and it's rich in its culture. We have the biggest green space, meaning we have like Crotona Park, Palm Bay Park, the Bronx Zoo, so we have that, and I think the element of community is what I like the most about the Bronx, though we're slowly losing it with the new gentrification that's happening in our neighborhoods. But I like the community, which means it takes a village. That's a very true thing. It takes a village to raise a child. So in our neighborhoods, that's what it is. It's a village raising one child, two children, 4 children. All the kids in the block are being raised by everybody. And that's what I like about the Bronx.
I imagine you have a long life story, but I don't know if you can kind of summarize in a way or find a way to tell her and how that brought you to who you are now.
Well, like I said, I was born in the barrio, and I was born to a single mother in 1955. she already had a son, my brother, and then she fell in love with a man and was pregnant of me. So she had the what was the S? You know, you know, in 1955 you cannot be a single divorcee with a child in your stomach. That was like the scarlet letter. So I was my mom had that issue already. My grandfather wouldn't want to talk to her, didn't want to deal with her because very strict with that. And then I was considered a blue baby. So my mother had the placenta, then me. So I was a sickly child. And in my sickly situations is what drew me to join gangs, as I started in the barrio. And so from there, my mom was single. My mom had 2 kids. Then she tried to get married again and had 2 more. And he was very abusive to my mother. And I lived in that type of environment. And so my mother left him, and then she became single. My mother would go out and drink. She'd leave Thursday, come back Sunday. So I became the caretaker of my siblings, including my brother who was older than me. And then we moved to the Bronx. And my mother was pretty abusive. She was very strong-willed. So my mom would beat me for anything. Anything that set her off, you know, I would get my butt beat. So I grew up that way. And so I left very early. And I just went to the streets. And this is why the gang and I clicked. Because a lot of the kids that were in that gang were going through a lot of similar stuff that I was going through. And so then I married the leader of that gang. And I became what they call the first lady of that gang. And then we were married 24 and a half years. And it was very severe domestic violence, severe by pulling out guns on me. I lost a baby when I was 6 months. These are all due to his beatings. I have my eye. He damaged a cornea because he broke my orbit. So when he hit me, this bone came down here. So it had to be redone. So it was very severe, but I stayed. I stayed because of a lot of reasons. I stayed because my mom always said, if you get married, it's for life. God doesn't see divorce. And then I stayed because I grew up without a father, and I wanted my children to have a father and a mother. And so there was many reasons. And then there was the fear. Like, if I really leave him, you know, am I going to be retaliated against? And not only that, I tried leaving. A couple of times, but he would always stalk me, harass me. You know, I would be coming home and there he was and put a gun on my side, you know, and it was just a horrible situation. But it lasted 24 and a half years. Him and I had 5 kids. We adopted my nephew, and then I also helped raise his son. So it was 7 kids, and then I raised so many kids in that neighborhood, so many kids. So, but I finally got divorced, and that's when I started school. And then I went to school. Because I was a 7th grade dropout. So I went and I obtained a GED, and then I went into a 2-year college, and then I went to a 4-year college. And so I got an associate's degree, and then I got my bachelor's in social work, and I became a social worker. And I retired a couple of years ago from that. So there could be no other field for me to go to than psychology, psychiatry, therapy, social work. You know, this is something that was already embedded in me, because once you go through those types of experience, you want to help the next person, you know, and give them hope and let them know that things can get better. So I went into that field, and I've raised, you know, wonderful children. None of them been in gangs or drugs or anything like that. They all have a very good work ethic, and they're just wonderful, wonderful kids. And I have 13 grandchildren, and I have 2 great-grandchildren. And it's something for me, an amazing thing, because I never thought I'd live to be 19. So I'm going to be 65 next week. So I've already been blessed. Should I die tomorrow? I've lived a blessed life. Regardless of everything I went through, I've lived a blessed life. So, yeah.
What advice would you give to other women, especially the new generations that are coming?
Well, that would depend very much on what situation they're in. So just an advice, I would definitely support any young woman that wants to go to school. I would call any politician. I would walk into their office. I would do whatever I have to do. If a young woman comes to me and says, I want to go to college, but I don't have the money, I would make sure that I would do everything I can so that child can get maybe some kind of financial help of some kind or what have you. And when it's runaway children and you have them in your home, my advice comes in my treatment of them. You give them love, you hug them, you tell them how smart they are, how beautiful they are, how much better they can do, and why this is best for them, and what you can do, what education is, how it's a weapon for you to fight the system that be. You know, you can get through so much. And if it's a young woman in domestic violence, then I would tell them there is hope. I would probably give them a little synopsis of my story and say I was able to get away and I understand what you're going through. But the problem with domestic violence is that a woman, that is their most dangerous time when they leave a man. That is when the woman is at most risk of dying. So you have to be careful on what you tell a woman that's going through domestic violence, whether she's 16 or 60. They know best. They know their abuser. So you have to treat them, you have to talk to them from what point they're at and then take it from there. And then, you know, offer all the services that I know are available and say, if you ever need it, just call. Or if you ever need someone to talk to, you can always call me. I give my number to everybody. I think the whole world has my number. I think my number has traveled the world. I give it to everybody. I've done lectures and I'll just say out loud, if anybody needs to call me, this is my number. So, and I think that's one of the best things you can do. Me with young children or young women or young men is to give them that connection that, oh wow, she probably does care because she gave me her number. And your telephone number is a very personal thing. And when you give it to somebody, you're giving somebody love. You're telling somebody, I see you and I accept you. And so that's what I would do.